the meetings.
Cool. Awesome. Good to go. Right. Well, welcome everyone to our Collingwood Community Board meeting. It's really nice to be back here in Collingwood with all the necessary technology, and a big thanks to Jess for getting all of that sorted. I'm just sitting over here not touching anything. But I'll hand over to Cameron Robert for our karakia before we go any further.
Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai. Hi aki ana, te atakura, hi tio, hi hoka, hi hohu, tihei Māori ora.
Thank you, Robert. So, as I said, it's really nice to be back out in Collingwood. Even the weather is a little bit, hopefully the sun will come out later. So we have apologies today from Councillor Chris Hill, and do we have any leave of absences? No, good. Well, I'm happy to move that the apologies be accepted. Can I have a seconder, please?
Yep.
Great, seconded by Deputy Chair Knowles. All those in favour? Right. Lovely, thank you. Okay, so on to public forum. So we have 30 minutes allocated for public forum, with our speakers being allocated 5 minutes each. Our speakers must be respectful, avoid repetition and criticism of elected members and or staff, and avoid speaking on matters subject to legal proceedings. So first up we have Victoria. Welcome, Victoria. Nice to see you.
Thanks, Gary. Good to see you too. My name is Victoria Davis. I was sent a ticket to come to New Zealand in 1979 because my skills were required. There was a desperate shortage of radiographers. I served my time in the Wellington area. My husband and I moved here in 1984. The land was still relatively affordable for normal working people like my husband and myself. The word soon got around that there was a radiographer in town, and this wonderful community fundraised over $100,000. We added a fully functional X-ray room onto our medical center, which used to be very conveniently located in the middle of Takaka. People used to walk there, people used to take their mobility scooter there. The school kids, it may surprise you, used it quite a bit as well. Then the idea came out that it would be much better if we spent $9 million and put all of these facilities, the wonderful Collingwood Rest Home, the wonderful centrally located medical center, all under one roof. All of the facts were not put on the table. As a matter of fact, we were deliberately fooled because on the plans that they showed the public, one of the rooms was marked X-ray, nothing else, just X-ray. People assumed we would have had that fully functional, very important part of health in the modern day in the new facility. I kept asking for clarification, why isn't it on the budget, etc. I was put off by the authorities who are pushing this forward. I tell you this story because I believe we're being fooled again today. That's really disruptive having somebody walk in while I'm speaking. We all made it a point to be here at the time. Sorry. So I'm saying that, is that okay with you that I said that? It is disruptive. Okay. So I'm telling you that because I think we're being fooled again. I think that certainly my demographic, which is growing, the pensioners in Golden Bay, we, when I saw this future strategy here, the only human on this image is a cyclist. I'm not there at all. None of the old people are there, no farmer, no, what we have now in our community is in this. I looked inside and I found it was much the same of just if you weren't a cyclist or ready to get in a bus, then if you wanted to go to town to get your groceries and you're a pensioner like me, what are you gonna do? I'm not gonna carry all my groceries on a bike or a bus. I think that our demographics have been completely ignored, not acknowledged, and fooled into thinking that we need to do this for some reason. Okay, that reason isn't clearly put. All I see now is when I go to Pohara, it's hard to find a park. If I can't find a park in the summer, when I go to the Pohara store, Pohara Cafe, I won't be able to go in there. I'll have to drive back home. You have put the cycleways, taken away car parks without ever saying that one of the ramifications of this strategy is to remove car parks. Car parks are important. We are a large community. We are not Paris. It's my understanding that you watched some flash bit of Paris with their cyclists at the last community board meeting. We are not Paris. You may also be interested to know that the small businesses in Paris are actually subsidized so that people can come and enjoy a baguette in town. The little businesses that I want to support in Pohara are just having to do without these parks. I've put to you that we can be different. Golden Bay does not need to follow this computer-generated strategy. Here is my idea. All of us have always shared everything we have here. We're spread out in a big community. Our farmers, our walkers, our cyclists. We don't need to spend this strange, obscure amount of Three Waters money putting in one sector at the cost of other sectors. Our small businesses, our old people who rely on motor vehicles are not happy with what is put on the table now. We don't want to be fooled again like we were about the medical center. And now people have to drive all the way to Nelson, spend hours waiting in the emergency room, get referred to X-ray, back to emergency room. A woman stopped me the other day. She said, Victoria, it took me all day. I had to take a day off work to take my daughter to Nelson Hospital, wait, drive back. A lot of expense, a lot of time. We don't have that anymore because we were fooled, because all the ramifications of making that big $9 million project were not put in the table.
You're at 8 minutes. Sorry, Victoria, you're at 5 minutes now. Can I just ask a quick question for clarification? When you finished as a radiographer, was the X-ray machine at the hospital changed, or was it? Have we still got the same one up there?
We don't have it. We do not have a fully functional community
Okay.
fundraised for.
Right.
There's a dinky little machine.
So
very rarely used.
Is that different from the machine that you use?
We have no radiographer. I lost my job,
Okay.
and this community lost a very important part of what is considered in the modern day to be done.
Just wanted to check. So the X-ray machine is something now is not the one that you used to operate.
It is.
Right.
It's very rarely used. It's pathetic. And it needs to be repeated legally because there's only 2 doctors that can use it. They have their new 20-minute slots and they don't like to be drawn into doing that. So it's rarely used. It has to be repeated in Nelson anyway to be legal.
Okay, cool. Excellent. Thank you for that clarification. Nigel. Hi, Nigel.
Thanks. I'm Nigel Bess. I'm resident in Collingwood, as I know most of you. And firstly, thank you very much for coming back to Collingwood. It's great. I'm just going to read this and keep to the topic, I guess. For approximately 8 years, myself and the have been trying to gain access to Collingwood public land. Most of it is used, owned or controlled by Tasman District Council and includes our public reserves, roads, both formed and unroads, and the Linns land used by council. With the help of Councillor Butler, and some minimal changes have happened over that time, but the biggest and most desirable areas of public land have extensive restrictions to access to, and that still remain in place. And I'm primarily on that instance talking about the campground down the road. Having been round and round the council loop several times involving 6 different TDC departments, many of our community have accepted the futility of the efforts and no longer participate in TDC processes, and that's directly has effect on their properties. Collingwood has some spectacular natural assets and public amenities if only we get access to them to enjoy them. My question to the community boards is that, as our local representatives to TDC, is there an effective method that our community can get this board to resolve and advance these issues to benefit of all of our community? Thanks for the question.
Anyone have any questions or clarification? Excellent. Great. Thanks so much, Michael. Kevin. Yeah, Kevin.
Well, I've got some paper here if you want to table it.
Yes, please, that would be very useful.
So my name is Kevin Moore and I coordinate the Save Our Springs campaign. I've been doing that for about 6.5 years, so Save Our Springs was formed in Golden Bay, in the local community. And for time I've been there, it's been fighting to protect our Whakapuku Springs. And we've just got to this stage now where the water conservation order has been signed off and the legal process and environment board is finished. And we're moving on into it's with the government at the moment. We're waiting for it to be approved as it will be. So what I want to talk about really is kind of what now, and there's some business that's come out. It's not law business, but it is law business, but it's not live law business. And I want just to let the councillors know about this. And so Save Our Springs has been in negotiation with the Tasman District Council, and we have received cost settlements from the Tasman District Council, a fairly large amount of money towards our costs. The reason for this was that, simply put, that the normal time a water conservation order would take would be but maybe this far, and it went way out like that because of the way that Tasman District Council managed it. And so there are criticisms which I'll read out of the Tasman District Council as I go. So I'd like to read the statement that this has been agreed for by the Tasman District Council and Save Our Springs. The statement we agreed to is Tasman District Council and Save Our Springs Incorporated were submitters to the Environment Court inquiry on the water conservation order to Te Waikapupu Springs. The court's report identifies shortcomings in TDC's case and its management of the springs. As a consequence of these findings, the TDC has agreed to contribute to the legal and expert witness costs incurred by SOS. TDC recognises and acknowledges the work of SOS and other community groups made to the court's inquiry and looks forward to working with all the Golden Bay community on a freshwater plan for the Springs catchment and beyond. So that's kind of where that's at, and that's a joint statement, and the Tasman District Council created that. We looked at it and agreed to it. Now, the statement talks about shortcomings in TDC's case and the management of the springs, and that's really what I'm focusing on today. There's beneath that, you'll find, so on page 2, I think I'll focus because of time restraints. There are some paragraphs from notes that the court made. So this is the court speaking. And I want to just The main one is that 418, which I just want to read that out. So bearing in mind the RMA's associated duties and the responsibilities for catchment management, we were both surprised and highly concerned about what TDC's evidence revealed as a deficiency in the management approach. It necessitated the court taking a significantly more inquisitorial approach than would typically be taken. In addition to the significant resourcing consequences to the court, we are mindful that it also imposed an unreasonable burden of time and costs on the other parties. Ultimately, it is a significant factor in our finding that it is necessary for any WCO to include something more prescriptive restrictions on TDC's something here, S30, I don't even know what it means.
Section 30.
Section 30, thanks, Peter. Yeah, empowers that is typical. So it's because of the management which has been there in the past. And yeah, so that pretty much sums up these deficiencies that have been found.
You're almost at 5 minutes, fine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, there's another bit there that I encourage that I know there are farmers in the room, Abby, and people associated with family. I encourage you to read that because the basically the court cleared the farmers and see what was the Tasman District Council's fault, all of it. So, so this is the ask, if you like. Our concern is that the water conservation will be implemented in the same way, in the same manner that the preparations for the court case and the management of Te Waikarepupu Springs have been managed. So in other words, there'll be no change. That what's happened in the past and what's been criticised by the court will continue. That's our concern. And we ask that there be an independent public inquiry into the management of the water conservation order and the mismanagement of Te Waikarepupu Springs. And we ask that actions be taken by the Tasman District Council as a result of that inquiry. So ratepayers in the Tasman District and the over 35,000 people nationwide who have signed our petitions can be assured that the water conservation order will be implemented in the spirit of the water conservation order.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
I will be sending this to the councillors.
Perfect. Lovely. Thank you. Elizabeth.
Yeah. My name is Elizabeth Grace. I'm a resident of Collingwood, about 5 years. I just live on the peripheral of Collingwood. Eco accommodation. Now, as well as being running a small business here, I'm also St John's first responder volunteer, based out at Excellent Street, and we also have 3 young children attending CAS in the area school. For the board members who might not be familiar with all the roading layout around Collingwood, I've printed this off here for you, just so when I'm referring to a street name, you guys know what I'm talking about. So the main issue I'm bringing up today is to do with speed and safety signage around the peripheral roads, especially those ones I've highlighted there, Excellent Street and Orion Street. I have raised this before with Whakatatahi. They said to take it back to council or they would raise it with council. Never heard back. I did raise it with the school and they were aware that as a school, they do have responsibility for ensuring that there is reduced 40k signage around the school area. Collingwood doesn't have that. You'll probably be aware that Tarkett does have that. So in school hours, 8 to 4, drivers should be going at 40k by law. So, and also around the school, there isn't very adequate signing, especially coming off the Excellent Street and onto Orion Street, that's taking it from a 100k road to it should be a 50k road. Now, the interesting thing about this road is that it's shared use. So cyclists, a lot of pedestrians, we all have to use the same road. There's no footpath, there's no bike path. So it's used for school children, 3 of mine included. You know, I do have an invested interest because I do see how unsafe it is. The school uses it for cross country. A lot of locals use it because it's a walking route up to top of the street down onto the beach. So it's heavily used, gets a lot more use in summer as well. We have visitors come in. So there's no 50k signage when you're coming off the main road onto Excellent Street, and there's also not correct 50k signage when you're entering Collingwood by the school. And on a Monday morning, if you ever see those rubbish trucks, recycle trucks, they bolt down there. And that's the prime time when school children are out, people are out walking their dogs. That's when it's a very heavily shared road. Now, I do hear rumours, but I haven't seen anything online or anything that there is apparently an updated roading plan when I took it to the Board of Trustees at the school. So that might be something that you could raise with us. Also, so my question is there a new roading plan coming out? And 2, if that roading plan, do you think that roading plan should delay having correct safety signs while it's waiting to be implemented? Because even if that is going to be happening, it's still essential that 50k signs, 40k school signs are in place. So I'd love to hear from the members because they haven't shown any light on this. Oh, by the way, the school did get in touch with council a month ago, but they haven't heard anything back as well. So I have been pushing it through various avenues. As I said, I've only been here 5 years. Nikki Morris, a friend of mine, she's got a little bit more history knowing about the roading and what was supposedly meant to have been implemented, but hasn't been implemented. So she might be able to share a bit more light on the background of it as well.
Great, thank you. Nikki, did you want to speak in public forum?
Well, I mean, obviously, historically, the road was never there when I first came here, and I don't know if it's actually meant to be there. In the fact that apparently it's not on a legal.
What's that? Excellent.
Excellent, no, Orion Street. It was put through. Anyway, I mean, regardless of that, my issue is also the same as Elizabeth in the fact that the danger of the road. I'm driving up past Elizabeth's place to my horse paddock twice a day. There's generally always walkers on the road. There is people that drive the road so fast. There's nowhere to get off the road. Mixed use also. I have a horse. I ride my horse along here, which is also there's not really the grass verge is only mowed to a certain degree, and when the grader comes, that little bit is pushed over to the side, and because 2 cars passing each other, they're having to drive up on the ground, and that's like quite boggy. The whole the corner, which the roading has been changed to sort of like make it go around from Elizabeth Street through onto Orion Street, whereas once upon a time straight through the Gibbs Road. It will come flying around that corner, and it is the only place for the kids to cross the road to get to the school, and the kids all come from the village and not allowed to use Willis Street, they have to use Gibbs Road.
Okay.
And the other thing about Gibbs Road, because of the cars parking down there, it's essentially a one-way road. And a lot of people don't walk on the footpath because it goes up and down where the driveways go in. And so, and a lot of people park on the footpath. And so there's kids going in between these parked cars out on the road, and there's people driving flat out down the road to get to the end. You know, they're in a hurry to get to the end. It's a cul-de-sac, you know, doesn't need to have that kind of speed on it. So this is my insurance right here with this whole road and area, and it's quite a busy road.
Can you shed some light?
We can't respond through public forum, but what we can say is that there's a speed management review. We'll go out for public consultation. Your school will have already been contacted for this, and we will update you once we've had a bit more chat about it.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, my question was, even if we're waiting for that road.
Yes, the signage.
Signage.
Yep, absolutely. We'll come back to
Just got a
that.
question.
Oh, sorry, Silly does have a question for you.
Sorry, I'm just
Silly.
not clear where Elizabeth Street is, and then I look out the window and see Elizabeth
Oh,
Street.
sorry, Washington Street.
Washington Street.
That's for a while.
Are you talking about Excellent Street?
No, I thought you said Elizabeth Street.
No,
I
I
said
Excellent.
Elizabeth Street.
Oh,
I mean Washington Street.
Washington
So
Street.
Excellent Street comes off Main Road 60.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
turns on.
Yeah, no, I've got all that. Oh, thank you.
Sorry?
All good. Thank you. Excellent. I will thank you to all those that spoke in public forum. So we'll move into declarations of interest. Robert, I know you've declared one, and these are both around the discretionary fund application. So Robert, I know you've identified yours as for the holiday program for the work centre. I also have one for the application from the Golden Bay Boys and Girls Show. Anything else that anyone's got? Great, so we'll confirm the minutes from the 14th of August meeting. Has everyone had a chance to read them and happy with them? Great, would someone like to move that they
So
be
moved.
accepted? Great, moved by councillor Butler, seconded by Alderman Dixon. All those in favour?
Aye.
Great, and no late items? Excellent, so I'll move to welcome Joe, he was actually early, Victoria, his scheduled time to be here was 1:30,
Oh,
so he was actually quite
oh,
early.
my apologies.
Lesson learned, my apologies.
So Joe, welcome, would you like to come and join us? Joe's giving a presentation from Civil Defence Emergency Management. And I know Andy, you're very keen to hear what Joe has to say. And Joe, you received the email from Andy.
The system works.
I frightened myself last night by thinking maybe he had not, and Andy would be cross with me, but it's okay. So I'll hand over.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Tēnā koutou katoa, called Joe Tukuina, and I have the great privilege of being part of the emergency management team in Nelson, Tasman. And again, apologies, lesson learned. Your words earlier. So team, today I have we got a clicker, Jess, or are you kindly going to?
I'm going to have to click for you, sorry, Joe.
That's cool. Please can we click to the next slide? Or while Jess is clicking to the next slide, just as a bit of a memory refresh, that was our building there. We're based in Richmond in the Emergency Operations Centre, and there's a bit of interest that's built to what's called Importance Level 4, so it should be able to withstand a certain amount of shaking and still remain operational. So today, I'm just going to cover off a bit of a recap around who we are, what we do, how we do it, and why we do it, being prepared, and then some specifics on Golden Bay. And that's the key bit I want to get to. So I'm conscious some of you have seen some of this before, so I'm going to go through it quite quickly, but there's space for questions at the end. Okay, thank you, Jess. So this is our team. There's 5.5 of us. So Kay on the right-hand side there is just 0.5, and then there's myself. We cover various different portfolios, and we all operate from that building. However, we do go out to cover the whole area of Nelson, Tasman at various points. Thank you, Jess. So what we do, we've got a vision of a resilient Nelson Tasman community. We're a local government-led and jointly funded by both Nelson City Council and Tasman District Council. We get a small bit of funding for training from central government. And we, key point there, we coordinate the response during large-scale emergencies. In fact, the trigger points for our involvement is getting increasingly less these days as humans' reliance on technology and power and so on becomes increasingly more. So we activate very early on these days. And we work across what we call the 4 R's. So in relation to hazards, reducing the impact of hazards, getting ready for them, responding to them, and recovering too. Thank you, Jess. So what guides us? You're not meant to be able to read those pieces of paper, but the pink booklet right at the front there is called the Civil Defence Emergency Management Act 2002, which places a legislative requirement on local government to be able to prepare and respond to emergency events. And there's various other bits of doctrine and plans that come out of that. That piece of legislation is actually in select committee at the moment with the replacement emergency management bill. and it's open for submissions. And submissions close on 3 November. Yes. So a bit about our region. So the hazards, you'll be familiar with all of those pretty much for our region. So it's really not a case of if but when, and that's further demonstrated in the following slide. Thank you, Jess. With the picture paints 1,000 words, 2011 on the left there, top left, Pigeon Valley Fires 2019 at the top in the middle, Motueka there with the hail that happened over Christmas, and I think bottom right is actually the 2010, 2011 Golden Bay event that we had. Golden Bay, yes. Interesting times, thank you, Jess. And here you go, here's another example. So when we please say to our community, please be prepared. That's not a case of if but when. On the left-hand side there, and apologies at the back, you might not be able to read all of that. Those are the events that we've had, significant events that we've had in the Nelson Tasman region. And on the right, that's ones that we've supported with our team. And so you can see there over sort of 1 year, probably on average, we're getting to it. So, thank you, Jess. So business as usual, this is how we operate. Across the middle, apologies for the small text. We basically go back to those 4 R's. So we have a reduction committee made up of multiple partnering agencies, a readiness and response committee, recovery committee, welfare coordination group, and public education group. They meet 3 times per annum and in turn report to what we call a coordinating executive group. So that's chaired by the CEO of the Nelson City Council or Tasman District Council that alternates per annum, and is attended by their equivalents from our partnering agencies and EWIs, and police, fire, AMRO, MSD, and such like. They in turn send a report to what we call the joint committee, which is our mayors. So that's where decisions are made and work programs are set and budgets are set. Yes. Now in response, we go to a slightly different format and use this coordinated incident management system. It's referred to as SIMS, and you can type it in online if you have an interest. And these are the roles that are fulfilled within an emergency operations centre. An intelligence function, a planning function, operations function, welfare, public information, and what have I missed? Logistics and recovery as well. It's modular and scalable. So at the start of an event, 1 or 2 people can be filling all of those roles, but as the need arises and expands, we bring in more resourcing to expand if required. The person you'll see on the telly is the one generally in the middle there in the white box called the controller. And they're the ones that are responsible for making the decisions. Thank you, Jess. So some key points. Please remember that community resilience is key. You might recall the national adverts that come out of please be prepared to be on your own for 3 days. New Zealand Inc. just doesn't have enough responders. Whether it's across police, fire, health, ourselves, just don't have enough people covered. I'm sure some of the people in the audience will know that, just hearing about their backgrounds. So the more you can do to prepare yourselves, your families, your neighbourhoods, your communities, the more comfortable it's going to be to get to until some help arrives. Always plan for the worst and hope for the best. Ideally, we'll be there at a moment's notice. We'll see. And as I said, it's about coordination and communication rather than the doing. So we're using business as usual resources and contractors and businesses and coordinating the effort to where it's most needed rather than trying to do it all from that building. So we're not trying to recreate the wheel. And we don't require a declaration. We can still act and fully activate without a declaration. So saying there's a declaration doesn't mean the emergency is more important. Still fully activate, we can still be an emergency. We only declare if we need access to powers. Thank you, Jess. So, what we quite often get, these are just going to be clicked through, please, Jess. What we quite often get asked is when we're not fighting fires or mopping up floods, what are we doing? Are we doing jigsaw puzzles in the corner? And the answer is no. So we're working with our partnering agencies there. And I just note there's a gentleman that's asleep in the middle between those 2 defence pods, but hopefully we don't bore people to death too much. So we work with our partnering agencies. I'll change that photo out next year. We're running a 24/7 duty system. So this isn't an awake duty officer system. We haven't got people awake 24/7 within our region, but we do have a 24/7 warm state duty system. So what I mean by that is our duty officer has to have a phone on them and be within reception all the time, within 10 minutes of a laptop, within 1 hour from the EOC, the ability to drive, so unable to drink alcohol during that period. And that's going 24/7, 365 days of the year. And the thought that always crosses my mind when I speak to this slide is around our tsunami, potential tsunami hazard that we have. And the emergency mobile alerts that we can send out if needs to happen quickly. So, thank you, Jess. So there's lots of training that goes on with that. Training across that group emergency operations centre, and as well as that one that we've got in Richmond, we've got 3 local ones. The slide must have just dropped out. And there's one based at Tarkika, in Tarkika at the fire station there, and the alternate one is the name slipped my mind.
The Rex Centre.
Yeah.
Just off the rec centre.
St. John.
Keith Page Hall, thank you very much. The Keith Page Hall is a new, we've just got a recent letter of agreement and understanding with that process to be an alternate, which backs onto the recreation centre that we've also got as a welfare centre.
Can you say that name again?
Keith Page Hall.
Keith Page Hall.
Yes. So that's Golden Bay, and then we've got a place in Murchison and Nelson Lakes and Target as well. There's key areas that are at risk of geographic isolation with sizable communities. Public education is another thing we do, and here, quite fittingly, there's some photos from an Alpine Fault public meeting we did in Tarkika not that long ago. Way to go, Tarkika. We had the most attendees for our region there. You beat Nelson Lakes and Murchison. And school visits, and we're running this thing actually just next week called Clued Up Kids, so all the school children in the region cycle through the AMP showgrounds in Richmond, or this year I think it's in Motueka, and there's various agencies there putting into drills and education. Next slide please, Jess. Response team. So we've got a 25-person light urban search and rescue response team, and you might have seen these bods rock up in the region in wet weather. Thank you, Jess. And we're working with our community. So, as I said, there's not enough people. There's 5.5 of us across in Richmond. So we're heavily reliant on community volunteers and our partnering agencies in the region. And Golden Bay, Tarkika, Collingwood is no exception. So there's lots of work we do with kind folk that support us to make sure that we've got as much as we can the tools so they can respond appropriately. Always room for improvement. Equipment. So you have to keep our equipment running. It's not a posed photo at all down the bottom right, but these are all assets we have in our region. So we've got satellite communications in the middle there, top and bottom, backup radio communications, generators. In fact, we put there's one that went into the recreation park, 70 kVA, $70,000 worth of kit there just recently. And we put a bid in to National for the tents there on the left-hand side, which we can set up, deploy and set up by helicopter if needs be, and they can perform any purpose. And they themselves about $40,000 worth of kit, so we're very happy to be granted that. Thank you, Jess. Exercising and testing our readiness is something we've always got to do, and out of that, next slide please, Jess, comes a whole load of continuous improvement. I should just say there are more items to do that aren't assigned to someone within our office than we are doing, which we're not that happy about. We always try and do more, but it's around balancing and prioritising that workload with the resource that we've got. Thank you, Jess. And then lastly, of course, we do actually respond. I think the bottom one there is the Pigeon Valley fires, and we've got Prime Minister in the middle there. So we do get some VIPs through our clients, which is great to advise them what to do, but as you can see, it stopped the whole response for a moment in time there. But, work in progress. Thank you, Jess. So, what can you do? Please be prepared. That poor person in the middle took that down in Christchurch. I responded to the events down in Christchurch when I was part of the urban search and rescue team. And that is their livelihoods on their back. So please be prepared for if you get that knock on the door, like we had to do in the Pigeon Valley fires, saying, "Hey team, 5 minutes, we evacuate the property, please. The fire's coming this way. It's good for you to have pre-thought out and had those conversations with your family of what do I want to take, where is it now, where's it got to go, how am I going to get it there? When I went home after the Pigeon Valley fires and had that conversation with my wife, she thought we were going to take truffles, which is our 150 kilogram couldn't pig with us. And when we had the conversation of where's truffles going to go and how am I going to get truffles there, we had to change our plans. So it's really worth just having those conversations at home. Thank you, Jess. And one thing to be aware of recently gone in place is community emergency preparedness planning. So if anyone's interested in this, please just contact our office afterwards. And this is a tool we've developed for our communities. So they can contact our office, download a plan, and there's also a guide to the plan. And it's helping communities to prepare themselves, which means they'll be familiar with the plan, know what resources they've got in their region, got some ideas of if we can't go home, where might we go? There's a whole load of information in there. So for the community, by the community, we do ask that once it's completed, please send it to us. So if something's happening in your community, we've got a point of contact. But it's just good to know that those documents now exist. Thank you, Jess. So Golden Bay. I might just pause there. Any questions from the table before I go into that Golden Bay specifics?
I just have one very quick one, which is, you just mentioned the rec centre.
Yes.
And putting a generator up there. Now, I know we've had a generator up there in the past, but we could only use half the rec centre at a time. Have we been able to change that?
Yes, the answer is yes. So there's a ability for the building itself to have an external generator come and plug into it. As you said, that only powered for some reason half of the building or various aspects of the building. And now you've got a permanent generator up there, and it's placed on the correct side of the distribution board. It'll actually run the Keith Perry's building, recreation centre, and another facility as well.
Is it John building?
Might well be, I'll just have to clarify.
No, that's good, thank you.
So, fuel is generators are only part of this, the challenge. Fuel is another part of the challenge.
Storage, yeah.
It's something, it's better than nothing. So Golden Bay specifics.
Sorry, just on the generator. Do we still have the one on the trailer?
I believe
Is it
so.
still here?
Yeah, it went over to Mochuaka for a period of time and then, did it go back to Mochuaka?
One had gone back. It did come from them originally. We did take it.
There's one that's gone back. You've got one for, I'll get to it when I get to it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, all right.
Just pull me up on that at the end if needs be. Great from my perspective that someone from the community actually asked some questions which shows interest. So it's really great, thank you. I should just say there's a caveat statement here, which is as much as I'd like to be able to give you all the answers and say everything's going to be fixed straight away, unfortunately not. And we, as I say, we coordinate work. So we work with our lifeline utilities, and they are lifeline utilities. They're things that keep our community running. So power, roading, water, telecommunications, so on and so forth. And when we go and talk to these entities and sort of say, how long will it take you to get your kit back online, your infrastructure back online? They always advise caution in putting time frames for it. The main reason is because it depends upon the extent of the damage, the type of the damage, the location of the damage, the accessibility of the damage, and the access to their resource. One thing I put right at the top there is the maturity of business continuity planning as well is something I'm discovering. It's just evolving across New Zealand at all different levels. What do I mean by that? Quite often we can talk to a partnering agency and say, have you got a plan in place to fix this road, for example? And we'll go, yeah, we'll phone these contractors in bits and pieces. We just haven't done that initial thought of, in a scenario where there's a sustained loss of power and communications, how are you going to check on your own team first? And this is good for our households and families to consider. How are you going to check on your own team first? How are you going to know where to meet? Can you actually get there? How do you know if that building is safe for you to put your people into? And work all that through before you start going, where's the damage, so on and so forth. And that first step hasn't necessarily been done. Another thought there that popped into my mind, but it's just gone. So it's worth bearing that in mind that some business continuity is planned, but at early stage, this hasn't come into play. Okay, so the questions, Jess, I think are the next slide. I've popped them all up on the screen and I'm just going to go through them one by one and just provide you with the answers. If that's good, I think I'll see good for time. Yeah. Brilliant. So the first one there was, if there was a major storm damage to power lines within Golden Bay, is there staff and equipment within Golden Bay to carry out the remedial work, or do the staff and equipment have to come from over the hill to carry out the work? What would be the time delay in having resources ready to commence remedial work in the bay? And I am paraphrasing here just because of time, but Nelson Network Tasman, the key entity for this question, do have a depot in Target. They have 3 line mechanics permanently stationed here, and they have the equipment and capability to carry out routine maintenance and most fault repair work. However, in the event of widespread damage, they would need to reinforce their crew with people from their depot in Hope. And therein lies the challenge, because it goes back to that first slide of other damage to other infrastructure. In fact, that was the thought that popped out of my mind quite often before organisations put their employees into the buildings these days. They want to check that they're structurally sound, especially after a shake. In their business continuity plan, we are one of them, will have a structural engineer that they've got an agreement with to contact. But what we're finding is that structural engineer is the same one that's being used across multiple businesses and organisations. And again, there's only a limited supply of structural engineers. We've come up with other solutions as well, technological ones, but that's what I mean by the maturity of our business continuity. So, next question. If the power line connecting Golden Bay with Tasman was taken out, what, if any, is the time delay to have Golden Bay's power supply restored? And the answer we got was that it depends on the scale of the damage, the assets involved, and whether road access to the hill is open. Restoration time will range from less than an hour, and that's for lightning strikes and bits and pieces, to days if there's landslide damage, and it depends on the type of landslide. If the damage to the lines was extensive, they do have diesel backup diesel generators to provide a limited supply. So again, unfortunately, team, it's not all a good news story. It's just the status that we're at the moment. Next question, and Abby, these are the questions that you were wanting. You're referring to in your email. Just check.
All of them, yep.
Yep, brilliant. Next question. If a major weather event took out the main power supply from the south into Nelson, what impact would this have on Golden Bay's power supply? Would there be periods of time when the power supply in Golden Bay would have ongoing interruptions, and to what extent? And unfortunately, the question again, the answer is, yeah, once again, it will depend on the size and scale of the events. Unfortunately, they can't put a time frame on it, but they confirm it's likely to have interruptions to Golden Bay's power supply. So
I've got an issue here.
Sorry, we can't take interruptions from public during the presentation.
Well, most of them are going from Golden Bay over the hill, not the other way around.
I have got something here too. We do have up at the Cobb, and I have talked to John, who was the maintenance, got the engineer up there, and has said that it can be switched over.
That's right. Yes, it does depend on the backhaul. Just bear with me for a moment.
Good to know that it can be switched over.
You're quite right. I can't find the information right in front of me. It can be switched over. There's a bit there which depends. If it's severe damage, it can just take some time to do.
Good to know that.
And it's big enough to get whole bay.
And this is why, team, that we always say, please plan and prepare yourselves to be on your own for a minimum of 3 days.
Minimum of 3 days.
Minimum
I'm
of
just
3
thinking
days.
I might use this in my next board.
Minimum of 3 days.
Minimum of 3 days.
Yes. And that's not only food and water, but in an event where there's sustained loss of power and sustained loss of communications.
So would you recommend, so minimum of 3, sorry, Joe, and how many would be optimal? 5? I mean, I know we're asking the whole what if and
I'd like
Advance.
a week, so 7 days.
7 days.
Wellington based themselves off 7 days. I liken this a little bit to Jamie Oliver in an interesting way. Fruit and veg, you know, everyone's familiar with the 5 pieces of fruit and veg a day. It's actually meant to be 11. But if you say 11, then people will just discount it and think, I can't eat 11 pieces of fruit and veg. So they go for 5. And if we said 18, we want you to be prepared for 2 weeks and have all that supply. I think people will just discount it straight away. So
Yeah.
minimum of 3.
Minimum of
7.
3, ideally 7. Okay, thank you.
That's 3 litres of water per person per day. Is the
Just
ideal.
for drinking?
No, that's drinking, sanitation, cooking.
Yeah, and I was gonna say it's a lot of water. There might not be much there. It's a joke. There might be dipping in the river. Okay.
Right, which one did I get up to, Jess? 4. So if Tarkia Hill was blocked, how would this affect the answers to the 3 questions above? I think we know the answer to that. So longer restoration timeframes, they can rely on other means of getting over the hill, including aircraft and barges. And there are letters of understanding in place. It will depend on prioritisation of the damage across our whole region and what's needed to. There's only limited barge space, so I need to see what's going on. Cool. Yeah.
But in Golden Bay, that would fall to the local controller, wouldn't it? That we wouldn't have to wait necessarily for someone to contact us from Nelson. I mean, if there was no communication, well, surely we would just go ahead and start.
Yeah, so your
ourselves.
local controller here has satellite communications with the EOC over
Yes.
there. In the event that we can't talk to each other for whatever region, so we've got our standard communications of email, cell phones,
Yes.
landlines. If they fail, we've got VHF communications, so we've got radios, and if they fail, we've got satellite communications at the moment. In the event they all fail, then the local controller has the pre-approved ability to act and make decisions. And also, even if we have got comms, delegated authority to do so to a certain extent. But when you're pulling limited resource from around the region, and we have got communications, that coordination point, which presently is based in Richmond, that can identify where is the greatest need across our whole region. All our controllers just check in to make sure they're not pulling something from there.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm just thinking about Gita, when we set up the barge from Tarakoe,
Yes.
and that was Solly's doing that in conjunction with our local controller. And we barged in food and we barged out milk and things like that. Which, yeah, was a bit of a,
Yeah, I wasn't here for that.
no,
But I believe that got signed off in Richmond still, but there was some, I think there's room for improvement.
absolutely, yep. But just, yeah. Wanting to check that there was that mandate for the local controller to act. In the best interest for Golden Bay,
Yes.
obviously, yeah.
Yeah, and they can do so, especially if there's not communications with us. And even if there's communications with us, just for to set the vision, it's not a very bureaucratic meeting. There's a few of us on there, all the controllers from around the region. So talking about a handful of people, just assessing what the need is versus the resources, making those decisions pretty quickly, as you can imagine, needs to be done at the time of events. Sometimes with our partner agencies.
Does it go the other way as well if there's an event in other parts of the region? Other resources that go in Golden Bay so they're at disposal, like we draw people and resources from here to respond to events elsewhere in the region?
We have drawn personnel from here to assist in that EOC. Pigeon Valley Fire was one where there's no risk to Golden Bay. If there's a, and I never say never, but as a controller myself, if there is an event that imposed any potential risk to Golden Bay, I'd be very unlikely to pull resource just because it's, if that road gets compromised, it's hard to pull it back in. So it had to be a very deliberate decision to do so, but it could go both ways, especially with people. It has done. Right, number 5. Thank you. Golden Bay lost power. How long could cell phone communications, the radio service, and sewage reticulation water supplies keep functioning? Right, so cell phone communication. So all the chorus sites have backup battery backups. However, depending on demand, they'll only last up to a day in most instances, and that's why the national messaging is please send a text rather than call if needs be to your family, leave those lines free for emergency services. In terms of radio communications, so on the Mount Campbell site there, they've got 7 days run time depending on fuel quantity and time of an event. Those are the same sites that host our radio stations at Mount Burnett as well. They've got plans for a backup generator with a 90-hour run time. Some of these sites, it's a little bit ad hoc, have some solar capability, but again, we're talking days, not weeks or months.
No, that's fine. I was just like, we can give a copy of this, Jess.
But you
I've got a copy of
Oh,
it.
you've already got a copy of it.
Doing it.
Oh, no, the answer,
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
Yeah, no, sorry, the answer.
Yes, of course, just understand. And this is
Sewage thing, yeah.
and by the way, this is part of it's an ever evolving narrative that we've got. So I mentioned that committee structure before. One of them is a Lifelines committee, so we're always talking to our Lifelines partners around these aspects. And if the changes in legislation, it will give us the ability to say, please send us your business continuity plans and update us as to how you're tracking year on year. At the moment, we can only ask. So see how we go. Thank you. Sewage was the other one, sewage reticulation. Yes, so in off-peak times, council has a permanent generator located at the Tarka wastewater treatment plant that will operate the entire treatment plant. They've also got a permanent generator located at the Collingwood wastewater treatment plant. However, that will only operate the UV unit. Don't quite know the implications of that yet. We have gone back to ask, but that's the information we have at the moment. They have a mobile generator. This is the one I was referring to earlier, located in Tarki that can be moved from pumping station as required. So I think that's just dedicated to the.
Yeah, I don't think that was, yeah.
That's not the one that we brought over from.
Yeah, I think they might have taken it back.
Main pumping stations have a minimum wastewater storage of 10 hours and other pumping stations have 6 hours storage. And in peak periods, there's the potential that there'd be a need to use a septic tanker truck to move effluent from the pumping stations to the treatment plant more frequently. However, there would be expected in significant catastrophic events, there'd be some overflowing of the wastewater reticulation into various locations. Standard.
6 or 10 hours isn't a very long time. And when you say non-peak and peak, I think if there was a significant event, it'd be all peak because nobody would go anywhere.
It's not a long time, and then you would have seen in Christchurch those images still of security fencing and portaloos with the assets that are in demand. Cell phone communications, the next one there, which one?
So you've almost answered number 6 there too with the generators.
There we go. Right. If this was the case, Tarka Hill, what?
So it would be budged.
Yeah, and I've got some notes here. Let me just catch up. Yeah, so across those other things, in terms of cell phone communications, Court would need to bring in generators and people into Golden Bay. Radio communications, there's generators already on site, so this is the one around power being out for a long time. And the sewage reticulation we've covered as above. In terms of the roading network, that last question there, I believe around the roads, there would be an impact on timeframes to the answers previously provided, and it would take longer to organise transportation options. And as alluded to, if it's an event that has impacted the roading network across our region, we've prioritising those contingency assets such as barges and helicopters. So yeah, communication is a key one for us, which is why we've got those multiple levels so we can get a picture of what's going on.
As regards the resilience ramp, it would be quite good if you could actually reinforce that with council that it is actually part of our resilience, because I don't know that that is completely clear. you know, that it is actually a very necessary part.
Just missed the first.
Oh, the resilience RAM at Port Tarakoe.
Oh, right, understood. Okay.
Yeah, so, yeah, I think that just could do with a follow-up to say this is an expectation that it is there.
So the importance of that around.
Yeah, that it is part of our resilience sort of set up, rather than being just a nice to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then my other question is just about communications and this issue, and I actually had raised that with you before about Facebook versus the council website versus texting or whatever, because you know, when we've had very big rain events recently, people have actually looked on Facebook and assumed Facebook to be the method of communication with the community. But there are a lot of people who don't do Facebook, especially more and more now. So what is the situation with, you know, communicating with the community? Where do people look to find out what's happening with that bridge down the road, or are they allowed to go here or there?
Yeah, so the answer I'd like to give you is to go to our website. However, I'm just off the back of a meeting last week that's highlighted really that the load we're tending to experience during emergency events means our website stalls and isn't fit for purpose. So we are, I'm advised by the end of the year, but just conscious of timeframes with other events that might happen, that will be upgraded. And that does two things. So one, that means that it will cope with demand, but also if we put some information on there, it should automatically push to Facebook, Twitter. I'm not the most, all this top tick and Instaface, yeah? Facebook, Twitter, and the council websites, as well as our own. All of those are online solutions. So what we're really starting to look at is for the Alpine Fault type event, which is the catastrophic event we're looking at here, community notice boards and how we disseminate that information, put it out in hard copy to our communities, or to key players in our communities that have networks. So we're not just reliant on technology. Bear in mind, a lot of this was around sustained loss of power. We're just trying to advance that next step. Just this caveat again is the workload exceeds resource. So it is a work in progress. The priority at the moment is to fix that website and get that fit for purpose. And it's not just that it's suddenly become untenable, it's just technology's moved on. But we are exploring those other aspects. And one of them, we're actually working with our partnering agencies, St John being one. We're very conscious that our communities are bombarded by lots of different messaging these days, whether it's winter driving conditions, whether it's change your smoke alarm battery, whether it's flu season, and therefore can we all work together and just share one message at one point on everyone's platform. So if we're talking about be prepared, can everyone share that? And then when it comes to winter for safe driving, everyone shares police message and so on and so forth. Just trying to consider the people at the other end, putting people at the heart of what we do, which is what we try to do. We don't always get it right.
So it's a bit of a work in progress.
It is. So key ones still. I go to the council websites and still go to our website. We run a Facebook page, putting stuff out there every week. Those are the key ones. I'm just conscious that our website is not quite fully functioning.
Well, thank you for that. Can we get hold of that Fens guy that did the updates in the Pigeon Valley fires? He was great.
Yeah.
On the Fens page. Sorry, yeah, Brian, I'll just look you in 2 seconds. I'm just aware that we're a bit over time now, so
I just as
winding up.
Just as a matter of interest, you've talked about the barges and helicopters.
Yes.
Do you know the size of the plane, the size of that could land at the target, the air drone that was open, and you've got to for bringing in essentials?
I don't know about the target area. I know about Motueka, but not target.
Okay, that's important, I think, because we could. And I know, there must be a size per length of runway ratio.
Rules, isn't there? stopping distances.
It's probably a million questions, but.
Some of the legislative aspects we can bypass if we do declare. And we've looked at that in Nelson Airport and the aerodrome, but I've probably been told, I just can't remember, so I'll follow up. Thank you.
Adding in that helicopters will be important in Golden Bay, considering our number of bridges. Yes.
Yeah, but one plane with lots of stuff in.
Yes,
But,
yeah.
you know, that sort of, you know.
Is there any, sorry, I was just wondering, is there any capability of bringing the barge into Collingwood or anywhere western side of Golden Bay?
I've been advised there is, but I'm not the right person to ask there.
That might, yeah, that could, but that might be really important too. if the
Might be.
roads are-
I think all the bridges between here and.
But I'll double check.
There are barges in the Able Tasman with the capacity to float in low levels of water. Beach access, so.
So team, thank you very much for the opportunity to come and speak to you today.
I think.
I hope I've provided answers to all those questions. I realise and appreciate that it's not probably the answer that you'd like to hear, that everything's ready to go at a moment's notice. Which is why, again, I'll just reinforce the messaging to individuals, household, communities. Please be prepared to be on your own for a minimum of 3 days.
Right. Excellent. Thanks so much, Joe. Really appreciate you coming over. And if we do have any more questions from public, then I'm sure we can work together to get those to you in one email. That's
No, I'm more than happy to come back over.
beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your time. Okay, so that moving on to our chair's reports. Jack.
Oh, I might be able to line someone else up for this.
Oh.
That is the problem.
I'll bring that
So the bridges, coming down the arrow area, it was the sort of the logs and particularly the arrow.
I'll bring it up.
You know, you don't have.
Okay. So,
Thank you.
bringing us to our board report.
This one.
Number.
So we accepted at the end of it, yes, good. Okay,
Yeah, let's do.
Yeah, no, I think we'll stay if you like, yeah.
some public forum item.
Yeah, no confidential stuff there.
Right, the Takara tennis court, so that has been dealt with. We voted to include, to get that repaired and we have a camera. The festival support request was declined and the Tarakilling Wharf was passed to staff to correspond directly with Mr. Wallace. Just quickly, it was great. Henry, thank you so much for all your work you've done with the youth. Council and having them at the council meeting and starting those connections again, really, really cool. I think it was really, really great. The Taruki or Watangi treaty training.
Okay, so can I talk to that?
Sure. Do you, shall I just? Yeah, no, okay, no, what do you need?
Oh, I brought it up, so I just thought that I should probably ask. You know, I did Jenny's course and I wonder if we can do that as a board because we've all done something. And we haven't done something together with it, and I think it'd be nice to be on the same page, including our secretary and including maybe Motueka inviting them along. So that was why I brought it up in the first place.
Yeah, so the information's there and we just need to have a general agreement or discussion around whether or not, it is a big cost. 1,800 for a 4-day plus GST plus travel and mileage. So even sharing it with the Motueka Community Board will incur a substantial cost.
From my point of view, I'm just a bit edgy about sharing it with Motueka Community Board because they are, they've got a different lie over there, they're a different.
I think it's not specific to Golden Bay, it's just treaty. It's just the way that.
Yeah, I know that. I don't really, I don't really have a sound basis probably for saying that I'd like us to do it, but I don't think we can afford it. my preference is that that the Golden Bay Community Board do their own, but, I appreciate that it's very expensive.
I haven't actually, it was probably worth noting, I haven't talked to Motorway Community Board about this. So they may not even be interested in
Yes.
sharing that cost with us, so I'd need to have a chat with them.
Yeah.
Well, what
I just wanted to get your feedback first before I go to them and say, hey guys.
No, I think it would be a good idea. Yeah, no problem, Mike, personally, I'd be keen to do it. It'd be money well spent.
Yeah.
Nodding.
Support.
Cool. Well, I'll approach Motueka Community Board to see how they're, are you open to sharing it with them as well if they're keen?
If we could do it there, that would reduce the travel
Yes.
costs perhaps.
Yeah.
Reduce their travel costs.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
would be charged back to us otherwise.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if we can, that would actually bring it right down. We don't have to do a whole day, we could do a half day.
Do a half day, yeah.
You know, I'm happy to do either or, personally, it's just, I'm open to those two
Yeah,
options.
okay. Well, I'll approach.
Full day would be pretty amazing.
Oh, I can email and then we'll come back and, right, all right, thank you. Make a note of there. And they'll need to discuss it, so it won't be something that happens. Oh, quickly, so the new regulations around friendly camping, so that was just information only pulled from that regulatory report that we discussed in our catch up. The recreation contract, congratulations to the Wood Centre Trust on signing that contract, and we're looking forward to seeing the events. I've heard a couple from Tom, and they sound really cool. So I'm really excited about that. Oh, the chair placement. Now, a suggestion's coming from the community about possible placement of the two chairs. I have also spoken to Robert Deck and Lynn Paul regarding these, because there's no point us discussing where to put them and then go to them. They're saying that, oh, that's terrible. So Lynn's come back and said she wouldn't like to see them put on a grass area because moving them for the mowers will just be a headache. But apart from that, she's happy.
Now, would they rust if they were by the sea? That occurred to me.
She didn't mention that, but yes, very possibly. It would be
Yeah.
rust. The village green is
I
probably
mean,
not
we
an
could put
option
them on the
for us.
beach, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we could just,
Yeah,
they might be quite nice down on the sand at Liger Bay for families.
yeah,
to
so
sort
they
of-
washed away, yeah.
Yeah, until they.
Although the village,
I don't think it'd be
Village
nice.
Green does have the stage area, which, you know,
Yeah.
they could sort of stay up on there, because that's not used all the
No,
time.
true,
In
true.
fact, they've got really, you know,
I haven't even, I
percentage-wise,
hadn't checked with the committee, to be honest.
percentage-wise, it's not very often, so, you know, that's a possibility, I mean, it's still lounge area.
I
Yeah,
don't
that's what I
know if
was thinking, they have to do somewhere that they're gonna be used, I think, Predator Century, it wouldn't probably get a lot of use there.
yeah, and I don't think the war memorial is an appropriate spot for them.
No,
Mm.
No, there's a lot of seating there anyway.
Okay, so there's the Selwyn Street Beach, Liger Bay Beach. Recreations at Port Whakakohe with the Village Green stage.
I do like a bay, I like it. And Tata Beach is really lacking it more than anywhere,
And it's quite steep too, there's no real place to put them.
Tata,
Yeah.
yeah, where would you put them?
yeah, I know. That's a good point.
Hmm. Or I can certainly approach the Village Green Committee.
Yeah, you wanna ask them.
I can ask
So, I mean,
Village Green,
They would be sort of, and I mean,
see if they wanted them.
mowing around them.
Well, if they live up on the stage most of the time or on that concrete area, then it's not so bad, is it?
We could try them there.
Yeah,
If the,
And then
if
they
the
can
committee's.
convert
yeah. Well, I'll email the committee
I
and see if
just
they
think
would like.
it's somewhere for them to get used.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's lots of old ugly people. All like that, too.
All right. I'll email the committee and see what they say.
I wonder, like, if
Sorry.
it's not the village green, I was just thinking, I'm not sure if it's room, but at the playground.
Yeah, yeah,
Under
yeah.
the trees there somewhere.
Just
Yes.
trying to think
Yeah.
Well,
where
they'd
they've
be
got those
played on.
things.
They wouldn't be set on, they'd be flat.
Yeah.
wouldn't they?
Well, they can go on
Yeah.
the bark.
In the bark, then they would, yeah.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah,
It's just an idea.
but yeah, maybe as the village wall, we can put one on Village Green and one at the playground, or we can just move them. All right, I'll email both
What about the Red Centre? Red Park,
Where would you put them?
next to the playground?
The gravel area at the front of the grandstand.
Yes, they could double as additional seating for the games on.
I just think they'd just be wrecked, actually.
To be honest,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be
yeah,
wrecked.
I think we've
Rigged
got
in a
two
flash.
good options and.
Yeah.
So it's called the Red Centre for a reason why,
Did you hit the rock wall?
Yeah, you missed the 0.8.
It's a page.
Point eight.
Oh, I did, I jumped. Sorry, you can say Randy about this, yes, they don't. So yes, the Rockville Community Full Committee would like us to appoint a board member to sit on their committee. They've promised me they don't meet very often. They won't ask for any volunteering or anything like that.
What's the purpose of it, I
Yeah.
guess?
So
I mean, of the board member being on the.
basically, it's the same as any other sitting on any other committee, it's that report back because it's a council facility
I
technically.
was going to say, is it a council?
That's a
facility?
requirement,
Right,
yeah,
okay.
so it's a requirement
Yeah.
for them to have someone on their committee. Does anyone?
I would be happy to.
You're the closest.
I did say, I'm probably gonna be Henry.
Nice side of town, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
excellent, I'll let Nikki Nora know.
Okay, yeah.
Thanks,
If she
Henry,
wants
that's
to get in
great.
touch with me somehow or.
Yeah, well, she's got your, she's got your email anyway, so perfect. Brilliant, thank you, sorry, Kim, thank you very much.
Recreation contract.
So that brings us on to our action sheet. Oh, yeah, so that can come off, the bridge is gone,
It has got.
according to Robert, it's over being used in Nelson, because we couldn't find. a place.
Oh,
So it's
wonderful.
gone.
That's good.
And I said, well, someone said it was at the dump, and he went, oh, I don't think so, anyway, that can come off. Lynn Hall, that wasn't really an action for us, so that can come off.
Yeah.
Correspondence, that's
Oh, yes.
checking the Lynn Hall for the authority, yep, that can come
Yeah, I've
off.
just got one thing there, it's
Oh,
about
yes.
the replacement trees
At Pahara,
at Pahara. Yeah, so we did query their
Yes.
proposal for replacement trees, because they said something like Kanuka and Ekiaki or something like that. And so I just
Yeah.
I think that, and I did actually talk to Jack about what trees would be suitable, and he mentioned maybe totara.
oh, yeah,
Or Titoki are quite slow growing. But yeah, so I think that it would be good to just maybe communicate with the enterprise manager, Nick Chin.
Yeah.
Because what we don't, I mean, we do have a say over this, even though this campground is leased.
yeah,
But how clear are we about that?
yeah, okay,
You know, so we need to get that clarified as to whose call it is, as to
Yeah.
what trees are planted.
I imagine they'll be planted quite soon because of the
Yeah.
time frame.
Yeah.
okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And do we know what type of tree they ended up putting on the village green? They've got one there, just while we're talking about trees. They've got one on the village green, there's a new one in there, but we don't know what type it is, and I don't think anyone does.
I could ask them when I ask about the seats.
Yeah.
With the, sorry, going on to a completely different topic, the Pahara tennis court thing, it would be good if we just, if they let us know once it's done,
Oh, yeah,
or
sure.
just communicate with us, so we're in the loop, we go, okay, yeah, it's done. Because we don't know about the budget or this will be next year, or
Tennis courts. Lynn's normally pretty good at that sort of stuff,
Yeah.
so, but I can ask her. Nick. Please. Excellent. That can come off now, that special project funding, because that was, we moved some of that money, didn't we? So I know it's not, it's something different, isn't it? That's from,
I thought, I looked at that and I was actually a bit confused about No, that was about,
The special projects fund.
about actually getting
Some applications.
out to the
Yeah.
community about.
What I'd
applications.
just like to, I just, yeah, okay, that can be on, guys. We'll
I
move
think
on.
you call for donations.
I don't know what that call for donations photo is.
No.
I
That
don't,
was me, and I was supposed to be using, instead of donations, the word was supposed to be submissions, and I had a complete brain moment when I typed it. And I haven't been able to figure out the system to go back and correct that one.
Okay, so that's what.
But what's happening is every time we pull the report, it's pulling the initial wording that was entered in.
Okay,
That's
so
good.
next time we go through the minutes, we'll make note of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can,
So
as a correction.
next one is that can come off because that's been sorted for that's been decided at the July meeting for that movement
Yeah.
of that money. For higher guidance, we've done that can come off. And the Gone Bay Youth update can come off as well. Right, cool. That brings us to the end of our chair's report.
So I don't know how Susan.
Going back a while.
Yes, why is Susan Edwards on there?
It's because of the way that they're pulling from the,
Oh, yeah.
It's
Okay,
pulling from archives, somehow.
there's a large number of people that haven't been updated in the
Oh,
computer
I
system.
see.
And so, yeah, for some reason it's defaulting to Susan Edwards because she was the manager that I sat underneath, even though it's
Right.
John now.
John Rogers. So I'm happy to move that the chair report be accepted.
with those two notes.
Can I have a second then?
I'll second.
Second by Councillor Butler, all those in favour?
Right,
Lovely. So that brings us to our discretionary fund applications, of which there are two. So we'll start with, I hand over to Grant and we start with the boys and girls. Right?
All right, so we have the application for the Boys and Girls Agriculture Show, which happens every year. We've all read it. What are your thoughts? Let's go around the room, Henry.
I think, yeah, I'm all on board with that.
Yes,
That's,
Delia.
Good,
Yep.
community.
Robert?
investment.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
supportable.
okay.
We do it every year.
Yeah.
It's a once a year show. So
Yeah.
I think
And it's very discreet and obvious, cost and benefits
Yep.
associated with it, so. Yeah, it's well defined, I think.
Perfect. Okay, so we'll pass that one. I'll go back to sorry, just the other one as well.
Okay, good.
Go
Go on
The other one.
then, continue on.
Carry on. And so the other one for
Oh, just make a note that Robert's excluded.
yeah, Robin has it. Yep. Gone Bay Work Centre Trust for Tom Lake to be holiday programs. Yeah, right. So I assume we've all read that, Henry?
Yeah, and very similar to the Boys and Girls Show, I think this is a really good little investment for us. And I feel like this is the kind of thing that the discretionary fund is sort of.
Yeah.
These kind of projects. that-
And worth noting too that they're setting up from scratch.
Yeah, so there'll be a bit of setup cost and, I remember doing these programs when I was a kid. And they were great,
Yeah.
It's good to provide that.
So, what venue will they be using? Does it
Target
say
for
that
primary
here?
school. And it's worth noting, Tom did throw this together really quickly. He did come and apologise and said, I got it together really quickly, but because the time frame between them getting the contract and getting organised for this was quite tight. So yes, they will be using Takaka Primary School, and I'm not sure if Takaka are charging them or not.
Yeah.
But they will be starting from scratch. They haven't, they've approached the rec centre to see if they can get all the, but they haven't had a positive response.
Because that's the ideal. wouldn't it?
That would be, because I'm not sure what the rec centre will use all that equipment for now, and I know from experience, there is a lot up there. We put a lot of money into setting up for these programs, so hopefully they'll be able to manage and work something out.
Tom will be familiar with all the resources.
Oh,
we have there,
absolutely.
but
Bob knows exactly what's in that cupboard too,
Right.
so,
Cool.
but, so hopefully, I'm sure they'll negotiate their way through that and it'll work out well.
I think it's a great idea to support this one and just see where it goes from here. I think
Oh, me too.
it's going to be an ongoing, so yeah. Oh, well, happy to pass both of those. So, we
So we have to do this
we
separately.
grant, yeah, we probably do.
Because one of us has to, or
Because
Rob and
We
I
have-
just both.
we have a quorum.
Without us too.
Without the two.
Yeah, so we're just shush.
Okay, so all those in favour of granting the Boys and Girls Agriculture Show, the Golden Bay Rec Centre Trust funding applications? Aye. Against? Passed.
Easy.
Right, evening.
Awesome, thanks, Grant. And that actually brings us to the end. So we'll just pass over to Kim and Robert for closing comment there.
Kia ora te marino, kia whakapapa pounamu te moana, araha atu, araha mai, tēnā tātou, tēnā tātou, tēnā tātou katoa. Come go forth, the sea shines like a greenstone, goodwill has been exchanged, acknowledgements to you, me and everyone here.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you, everybody. And we will, I'll email around all the.
Well, did Jess, how did you go with the IT? You think we didn't have anybody soon?
We did, we had, so we had.
Oh, we did.
Um,
Oh,